How important is it for everyone to learn the immanent metaphysics?
I mean, I would be delighted if people had that background, that understanding. But mostly, I'm thinking about it in the sense of people learning the skill of how to care for one another or how to hold the notion of care. And so, in this sense, I'm treating it as a from scratch um, process. But the prerequisites aren't so much in the sense of knowing anything about my work as much as it is that they are in a kind of devotion. Like I find myself becoming increasingly clear that I'm really wanting to work with people who have, through whatever process in their lives, made the transition from I'm in it for myself to I'm in it for the well-being of something larger than myself. And by something larger than myself, mostly I'm hoping it for to be the natural world, right? So not just other human beings, although that's nice, but to have it be something that's in service to the land. One of the main things that comes out of the notion of governance, and by governance I mean something other than government, right? Government would be a separate body that is in some sort of ruler relationship with respect to the subjects of that community. That's not at all what I have in mind. What I have in mind is something much more along the lines of how do we make choices together, particularly in a way that's grounded in the needs of the holism. And by the holism, I'm talking like the kind of permaculture of the relationship between the humanity that is present, the technology that is present, and the nature that is present. So, in that sense, I'm wanting to essentially work with people or to sort of make it so that the selection process of the people that are likely to show up at this sort of thing are going to be, in some sense, in devotion to the well-being of the natural world, and to, in effect, rather than regarding technology of being as being in service to the human, that I'm actually holding that the notion of technology is in service to the natural world, and that we are in effect to heal the world in this process. Right. So that's a lifting out of the human centric concerns and moving it into a kind of um, well-being of the land. Right. So what is the function of governance? Well, it's to protect the land and the people, but more profoundly, it is to help the land and the people thrive. And if there was in doubt, some priority given to the land, because it's very easy for us to enter into the bias of I'll take care of my family, I'll take care of my own. And so it's very easy for us to relate to other human beings being a human being. And so therefore, to some extent, we have to put a little bit of pre-emphasis into the space of the well-being of the land. Because if we don't protect the land, we're not going to have any food. We're not going to have any place to live. It's going to be a very uncomfortable space to not be in. And so, in this specific sense, I'm very much describing it as a kind of devotion to the well-being of the land. So for the community, it's essentially a care of the gardening space or the permaculture space that's in the immediate vicinity of the community itself. Right? Can we eventually extend that into some sort of holism of choice making for the bioregion that they're a part of? Well, that would be a good thing. Yes, let's see if we can develop skillfulness that can extend to that level. And I would love to see this happen in a way that had intergenerational effects. That the wisdom and the skillfulness of the process, as embodied in the community, as grounded within a particular location, was something that carried forward in terms of the skillfulness of the next generation that would come after that, and the one that succeeds after that, and ongoing in a way that we as a species learn to be in right relationship to the world in which we live. And so in that sense, it's not so much the metaphysics that I'm wanting them to learn as that skillfulness. And in order for me to bring the best possible embodiment of the metaphysics into that sort of scope of practice, then in effect, I'm looking for people that already have established within themselves a kind of devotion to that outcome, right? The outcome of making good, wise choices. So in effect, it's a bit like when we think about raising children, for example, we know that at the moment that they're born, that they're helpless. We as parents need to make choices for them more or less completely. But at some point, when they're 18 or some point later on, perhaps there's a place in which we're no longer making choices for them. They're making choices entirely for themselves or on their own behalf. And we're hoping that our love for them has conveyed to them as part of the process of loving. Love is that which enables choice. That we have developed within them the wisdom to basically be able to make healthy choices as parents and as people that are effectively teaching the next generation after them to also be wise, to be able to be parents, and so on. So in this sense, we've got the sort of built-in process of relationship between love and wisdom on an intergenerational level. What we haven't done as a species is figured out how to do that at a peerage level, right? In the relationship between man and woman, or between person and community, or one community and another, that this enculturation of wisdom as a kind of uh, developing practice in terms of how we can make choices collectively that effectively is genuinely in service to the well-being of the land itself. Somewhere along the way, there's this motion where we begin to realize that the meaningfulness of life is a shared thing. That it's not something that I can hold by myself. And so, while it would be helpful to understand that intellectually in terms of the metaphysics, at some point or another in every person's life, there's a choice around that. And it's the choice that I'm most interested in. It's the quality and the basis and the depth and the realization of that choice. That's that's a prior motion before even coming into community. So this is part of the reason why I talk about, for example, as basic skills of community, communication, integrity, and a good attitude. Like, what is the energy that you're bringing with you? What is the work that you've done essentially to be a whole being? And how well can you stay in connection to another? And so at this juncture, I think of that devotion as being kind of the more selective basis than have they happened to have studied a particular abstract body of work called the metaphysics.